Hello, everybody, and welcome back once more to Anime Yay or Nay. I am TheOutbackAl.
I'm Yin&Jung.
I'm Chibi Noob.
I'm Envy Jitters.
I'm CheerandCosplay.
And I'm Kozi.
And we're back with the last episode of the year. This is coming out. What is today? That's New Year's night,
New Year's Eve.
Whatever you want to call it. Yeah, thank you for joining us for this year. Just want to say that out the gate. And this is the last thing for the year and the last basically anime that we'll be watching before we switch back to normal ass anime next year.
Nice.
Bit of a ride. How's that been for everybody?
I can't remember a single thing we've watched.
Okay.
It's had its ups and downs. More ups, I think, overall.
That's good.
It's been a good time. It's interesting to watch stuff back that I haven't seen in a long time, so that's been kind of fun, and see if my opinion's the same or changes.
Yeah.
And then stuff I missed out on when I was younger, because I just never watched it, never came across it. Or I'd heard of it and kind of wrote it off for whatever reason, like, oh, that's just a ripoff of something else. But it's actually really good, and I just didn't notice. Because I was like 5.
Yeah, no, that'll happen to you. Yeah, so we figured we might as well end with a real classic. So yeah, we watched Samurai Jack. Couldn't watch all of it because there's a lot of episodes, but watched at least 3. And I think this is kind of perfect because this was essentially the premiere. I do remember watching this when it came out, and they had like a 3-part opening night that they just showed back to back to just be like, hey, this is gonna be your new favorite show. So.
For the audience, everyone here except for Cece had seen this before, right?
No.
Nope.
No.
I have. The thing is I don't remember most of it because when this came out, I was like 6. But yes, I did see this.
I didn't even know
Nope.
what this was about. I didn't even know he was in the future.
I knew the premise of the show. I was not allowed to watch it as a kid. So,
I mean, considering you weren't allowed to watch what other shows?
I think I mentioned
I
this
thought
before.
you watched the final season.
No, when I was a kid, my parents barred me from watching 2 shows and 2 shows only: Samurai Jack and Yu-Gi-Oh. So,
Huh.
yeah.
Which
Interesting.
Which is surprising. Those were not shows that I was barred from. I was barred from watching The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Was black magic.
Yeah.
I watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually.
No, I think that I think my parents just looked at the main character's hair and said that was too weird. I think that was honestly it.
Judgy.
No, they probably saw the samurai sword and the demon, and they were probably like, no.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
I was banned from Yu-Gi-Oh! For a while, but that was because they watched the first episode and it ended with someone's soul being stolen.
See, I don't know why,
Well,
but I was
yeah.
banned from watching Cat Dog. I think my mom just thought it was
Cat
really
Dog.
weird.
Cat Dog's a bop, but
It's-
no, the reason why my parents didn't let me watch it was because they saw the commercials on TV and thought it would be a super edgy, violent show. Turns out they would just have to wait 16 years for the 5th season on Adult Swim for that to happen.
We can talk about that because this originally was meant to be a much more violent show.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
they did have to tone it down a little bit for the TV and time slots that they were getting. But we can go into that later. So basically the only people who have seen this, like seen it, are me, Kozi, and who else?
Me.
Okay. So this is everybody else's
So
first
it's half
time.
and half.
Everybody else's first time. I think we've gotten into the background of why you didn't watch it. Because if you haven't seen this, you do need an excuse. But what
I don't think I had an excuse.
you were 4.
Not gonna lie. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
this-
think I knew it was
This
a
might be
thing.
too much for a 4-year-old. I'll give you that much.
Yeah.
But for the people who this is their first time watching, what was your initial impressions of these 3 episodes?
I actually really enjoyed it a lot. Like, I understand why, it became such a cult classic. And, as someone who hasn't seen the show but saw the 2003 Clone Wars show, I totally see his style. I totally see his Genny Tartakovsky's style, his animation, his storytelling or sometimes lack thereof, with like a lot, not a lot of dialogue, more visuals and crazy batshit insanity action and animation. So all of that, I was like, okay, yeah, this is where he got, his. I mean, obviously this came before Clone Wars, but yeah, I could definitely see his footprint all over the show.
Yeah, I really liked the action scenes. I like the futuristic, like, sci-fi stuff mixed with, like, the old samurai stuff. And yeah, I agree. I liked the Clone Wars movie, and it really seemed very similar in terms of the tone and the style. And I enjoyed that a lot. And I like the kind of straight man, serious main character, and then all the funny side characters I thought played well off of each other. And they had some interesting world building stuff in the first couple episodes, and it kind of felt like a movie or a special to start off the rest of the series. So I liked that about it. It felt pretty cool. There was a huge dramatic tone shift, but I thought it actually kind of worked, especially for just doing a longer running show. Because when I watched the first episode, like, I didn't know anything about this show at all. I only knew the visuals, basically. I know what Samurai Jack looks like. So watching the first episode, I was like, oh, how is this gonna last an entire 4 seasons? I just don't see it. But then he got to the future. I was like, okay, that's the premise. This makes a lot of sense. So I liked it a lot. I thought it was really cool. And I feel like I missed out, but I was also 4 years old. So, yeah.
4 seasons of every episode being a speed run of a story.
Like, what if?
Could you imagine?
What if it was all that way?
I mean, I can imagine that. That's one of my favorite anime. It's called Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah. In a sense, yeah.
I haven't seen Clone Wars, so the art style just made me think of, Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab and old school Cartoon Network.
Same guy.
Mm-hmm.
The few that I was allowed to watch,
I mean, Gendy Tartakovsky did make Dexter's Lab, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah, that's wild to me.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh my goodness.
They don't have thick black outlines, I can't tell.
If they hadn't done it in 3D, they would have.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could definitely tell it was Gendy Tartakovsky with Hotel Transylvania because they move way more fluidly than a lot of other 3D animation stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's
true.
It's a
Didn't
very unique style.
Didn't the end credits look like his style usually? His 2D style?
Oh, yeah. I think they had a thing with the end credits in that
they
movie
do.
where they went
That's
2D,
right.
and I was
Yeah,
no,
that
I
didn't
see
look
this.
like his.
This feels like his storyboards.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about this later, but I need to check out the other show that he came out with recently called Primal, which is essentially yet another situation.
Primal is so good.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. It's like another mostly, visual storytelling thing about a caveman and his pet dog that's a T-Rex.
Oh, wait, so that's recent?
Not recent, like last year or something. It's been out for a little while. I just haven't gotten around to seeing it, but
okay.
yeah, need to go check that out.
18 maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I think they got the other two or three seasons out of it, or was it just the one?
It says there's 2 seasons right now.
Okay. I thought that they were going to get a little extra, but yeah.
What was it on?
Adult Swim.
Ah.
Yeah. They just don't always have the time every time something cool comes out. But yeah, so this one, if you don't know the story of Samurai Jack, they tell it at the beginning of every single episode. How Aku came to power and a foolish samurai warrior wielding a magic sword stepped forth to oppose him. But before the final blow was struck, he tore open a portal in time and plunged him into the future where his word is law. Now the fool seeks to return to the past and undo the future that is Aku. Do you know how many
Was
times
that word for word?
I made
That actually
I-
is pretty
I-
much almost word for word if it's not exactly that.
I switched it from first person to third because I am not Aku and I am not Mako, rest in peace. But
Okay.
I watched this a lot.
Damn,
I was
that's
just
pretty
about
good.
to say Mako, 2 of the most iconic characters for Western TV anime type shows, but they could not be more different from each other.
It is
character-wise.
crazy thinking that Aku and Iroh are the same person.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's all I could hear watching it back, because obviously when you watch this the first time, Avatar wasn't out yet.
No, we were 5 years away from that.
Yep.
But, that is all I could hear.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a demented bedtime story Uncle Iroh would tell.
Okay, now I just need someone to cut together Iroh talking to baby Zuko and telling him the Samurai Jack opening.
I mean, there was a clip apparently from the show that was not edited, but was clipped out of context where he orders a pizza, and that's just Aku orders a pizza, and I'm thinking this is perfect.
So far, these 3 episodes, we get the origin of Jack. We get not necessarily the origin of Aku, but that's in a later episode. But Aku comes to power, takes over his home. He goes off and trains with, honestly,
every culture around the world.
Thousands of years worth of different culture. Like, he goes, if I'm remembering correctly, he takes a ship, goes to India, Arabia, thereabouts, then goes to Africa, then up to Egypt, then to Greece, then to England to meet Robin Hood. And like, for those first couple ones, I'm like, yeah, these are all within a couple. A lot of these cultures could have been existing at the exact same time.
Okay, what about Robin Hood though?
Robin Hood's the outlier, and the Vikings.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's the outlier, and the Vikings after that are a little bit like, no, you're a very specific. You were not like spanning thousands of years.
I think he's lived like 3,000 years.
Robin Hood is older than you think.
Oh, yes, he is.
Not that
He's
old.
like 1500s.
Yeah,
But this
So
is way
first-
before 1500s, right?
it feels way
So-
before that.
So, first appearance of Robin Hood or Robin Hoodlum was like 13th, 14th century. So, about like 1200 to 1300 AD.
Yeah, but that's
So-
still like a couple thousand years away from what seems to be the height of ancient Greece.
Yeah.
But
And
maybe
then
it
there's
was
the
just sort of,
Vikings, who were... When were the Vikings?
like 1,000?
He was already
Okay.
time traveling, man.
Okay.
Before Aku.
Yeah. That's the premise, time travel.
He was already there.
And then he goes to the Shaolin monks and then back to Japan again. So, yeah. I mean, it still works. I think it's probably one of the best character intros that I've seen.
He took the Batman tour. you know?
Yeah. I mean, everyone needs a Batman tour every now and then.
Yeah.
But he gets back, fights Aku, gets sent to the future, and then it's him teaming up with some dogs to stop Aku from attacking dogs, which, you should be protective of dogs, voiced by, what was his name? Rob Paulson.
Rob Paulson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lost it for
my
a second.
question-
Those dogs were in... I can't pronounce his name. They were in his other works, right?
Oh, yes. There were a couple dogs. There was the one dog from the talking dog from the Powerpuff Girls was on a billboard.
Yes.
So technically, this means that Samurai Jack and the Powerpuff Girls are in the same universe, and he is in the ruins of what was once Townsville. And I didn't see the small one, but I saw the big one from Two Stupid Dogs.
So, is it like established then that like there's multiple worlds and aliens that just get transported to and from different planets? Is that how all this stuff happens?
Yeah, they essentially said that Aku took over the entire planet and then opened up the planet to, probably through use of magic and some other stuff. But yeah, this is not like Samurai Jack transported today. This is Samurai Jack transported to like the year 3 or 4,000, where space travel is just a pretty common thing.
Do we ever learn his real name?
No.
Not in the 5th season?
I'd have to look
No.
back. If we do, it's one of those like you don't remember it very to my knowledge. No, we never.
You'd think it would be a big
No.
dramatic moment if we found out.
I think the most we've ever heard someone refer to him, if they're not referring to him as Jack, it's son, because that's his parents.
Oh, okay.
It's just amazing how he got his name from a bunch of hip hop artists on the street talking to him.
I might be wrong here, but I think that he essentially pulled a Yojimbo.
Yeah.
Because I remember I showed you that movie, right?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
You don't know what his actual name is.
Yeah.
But he chooses it because he saw a thing or like was referred. He's like, yeah, just call me that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot of action setup and like it's primarily like it is a pilot in a way, but it almost feels like a full-on movie pilot for what you're going to be getting for the rest of the show. Combination of samurai movie, sci-fi, tons of action, a little bit of comedy here and there, and just I'm like really trying to describe this show, and I'm not really able to put it fully into words, which is weirdly appropriate because you don't need words in this show to tell the stories most of the time. I feel like he had whole episodes. He also had whole episodes of like Dexter's Lab and some other ones, but Tartakovsky kind of like had a number of times where there was no dialogue in any episode sometimes. And
I mean, just that whole sequence in episode 1 where he travels, like, that's just pure visual storytelling right there.
Yeah, really you saw this guy's entire life, and he didn't have to utter a word. I don't think the character of Jack actually gets a line until after he's already back and already an adult.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, we're there with him the whole time. I mean, you gotta give credit to creators who can do that much with a character.
Yeah. But obviously the few times he does speak, Phil LaMarr does a good job. I don't know if it's his most iconic role, but it's definitely, top 5 or top 3 of his roles he's done in his career.
Yeah, definitely one of the most iconic. Then again, he was in Pulp Fiction and he got his head shot off.
Oh, what the fuck's happening? Oh, man, man. Oh, man, I shot Marvin in the face. Why the fuck you do that?
So, I mean, you gotta remember that one. But so, I'm trying to think of, because this all is basically one episode. There's not a lot. I'm trying to think of what to talk about here. There's not a lot of characters. Our character is Jack, and he's going to be our only character throughout the series.
Yeah, you said he doesn't get buddies or anybody who travel with him, right?
There's, I think, 1 or 2 recurring characters. But when I say recurring, it's very rare. I think the Scotsman was in 2 or 3 episodes. And he's the main one that I can think of.
Yeah. Otherwise, Aku would be the most frequent. But even that is pretty rare besides, passing references to him in most episodes.
I do remember seeing him occasionally, but it's more of one of those, a bit like the Power Rangers villains of, I'm the head honcho, I'm gonna send a monster to go do my work, kind of thing. So,
it's beneath him.
It's only been a few times that he actually, directly clashes with him a lot of times.
Yeah. We also, as we go, we get, I feel like, less dialogue. It is a very visual-based storytelling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of, certain episodes in that, because, part of me, I know, just a quick question, because I feel like we can already kind of get there a little bit. Who's going to continue watching this so that I know how much spoilers I'm allowed to go into?
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to go right out of my way to, to binge it, but I do want to watch it in its entirety one day.
Okay.
Al, I have a question you might not know off the top of your head. What was the budget for this like? Because I remember it took a really long time for seasons to come out. This only wrapped up within, 2018?
It was 2017. It was, 13 years later.
I mean, it ran with 4 seasons from 2001 to 2004.
Yeah.
But, the animation level on that 5th season was, fucking amazing.
Oh, yeah, big time. Plus, if we want to talk about this, they were allowed to be far more violent in that 5th season than they were allowed to be here, which is saying something, because I think they really, in these early episodes, honestly in the whole show, they really rode the line of okay, what is acceptable for this kids, air quote, kids show?
I mean, in the third episode when, Jack is defending the dogs, I mean, they probably got away with it because, it's oil for the drones. It's not blood at all.
That's exactly why they did it. The majority of the vast majority of the people he will fight are robots for that specific reason. Because oil, and you can slice off as many body parts as you want, they'll just blow up. You will not see bodies. You will blah, blah, blah. That's how they got around censoring all this, quite frankly, graphic violence. Highly stylized, honestly, fantastic. You can tell, they knew exactly what they wanted to do with a lot of these pieces. And they were yeah, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it fucking hard.
They get away with beating the absolute shit out of Jack, just not showing any real blood.
Yeah, they do that thing of, his clothes rip, or he'll have, the, the anime scuffing that you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll show him, scratched up and stuff, as long as it's not, actively bleeding, though.
Yeah. So.
Or just, the one streak of blood down his cheek, and then it's gone the next scene.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, I don't even know about that. I'm trying to think of, how often I actually even saw blood. I don't think they ever showed any blood. I don't think. I know his hair.
There was a couple scratches on his face.
Yeah, Aku, at least in the pilot episode, Aku got a nasty one on his back.
Yeah, they show, like, red scratches, but they never bleed, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, actively bleed.
Yeah. I think usually the best indicator of how beat up he is are his clothes ripped and is his hair out of his ponytail. That's how you know whether he's having a tough time or not.
Does he look like a hobo?
Yeah.
Because, oh boy, are there times where he looks like he crawled out of the trash.
I mean, honestly, it is impressive if you watch the whole series, like, how much he survives the whole time. And just, at the end of it all, just calms himself down, and he's like, gonna keep walking. No idea where he's going, but he's gonna walk.
I feel like, wasn't there, like, a little bit where he did go kind of, like, berserker, and he had to, like, rein himself back in?
Yes. That,
okay.
It's one of, Jack is a very, usually, he doesn't have, except for a few times, he doesn't have a whole lot of, like, internal conflict throughout the series. A lot of his conflict is mostly external and, like, the obstacles in his path. But on occasion that they decide to have an episode kind of more about him, yeah, it's usually him dealing with kind of his own internal, like, frustrations with himself and his situation and stuff like that. They kind of, and often it does become a visually represented thing. I remember one point, like, Aku, like, was able to harness Jack's anger to make an evil clone of him that he had to fight, and the only way to beat him was to let go of his anger, essentially. But yeah, so they occasionally have those kind of things. But yeah, outside of that, a lot of it is just who's the enemy of the day, what's the obstacle I have to overcome. But it is kind of nice whenever they turn it back around and be like, let's have Jack be introspective for a minute, and let's have him deal with his emotional state, which is not great all the time, given his circumstances.
I thought it was kind of hilarious that he spent his childhood constantly traveling to different countries and learning their way of doing things. This is probably the most adaptable man on the planet.
Yep.
And then they throw him into the future and he goes through the most violent culture shock I've ever seen. This poor guy.
He comes out of it in 30 minutes, so again, the most adaptable person.
I mean, and how much of that was, he was a little like, oh my god, where is everyone's clothes?
Well, that and the fact that, he saw a bunch of talking dogs,
I'd be pretty shocked.
Yeah, what was it? Lizard people, three-eyed people, a bunch of aliens, talking dogs. But
flying cars.
You just give him 30 seconds.
He was in a strip club.
Oh yeah. Give him 30 seconds. He'll be back
Where
to go.
Where is everyone's clothes?
I think he was more concerned about why do you have extra eyes. But he adapts, like you said, pretty quickly, and that's pretty much going to be his thing. It goes pretty quickly into a formula of Jack walking somewhere. Weird thing happens. Jack is baffled by weird thing. Jack then understands weird thing and either overcomes weird thing or kills weird thing.
Oh, like a cat.
Rinse and repeat. And yet it never gets old.
I guess that's a good way to deal with your problems,
By killing weird things?
Yeah, either kill it or just let it be. Keep walking.
Yeah. Very accepting guy.
Like a cat. Just walks up like, oh, what is this? Sniff, 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 sniff. Oh, I understand. Yep. I don't care.
Are you Aku and or a portal to get back to the point where I can kill Aku? Then I am not interested.
Yeah. Single-minded.
Yeah. Speaking of, I'm trying to think of like how many times he did get close to. I can think of like 3 or 4 instances where he got really close during the original series before the thing, but yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to go into individual episodes.
It was always a portal though, because he could not. He did go up against Aku one-on-one.
Yeah.
A few times, and he got fucking wasted.
Not entirely. I remember a couple of those different fights. There was one where he did the one-on-one with him. I mean, he came out on top pretty handily. There was the one with the town full of zombies, where Aku got the sword. I don't want to spoil that because that's actually a really good thing where that goes.
Most future encounters with Aku, one-on-one, he did not walk away from in a very good condition.
Not in a good condition, but he walked away, and that's the point. That's always the point,
but
he keeps walking.
It wasn't usually under, like, his own power or ability. Like, something else usually interfered.
Again, the time that he, like, Aku essentially challenged him to a duel, Jack walked away because of his own abilities there, if I'm remembering that correctly. I like to think that I am. But, like, I'm trying to think as far as beyond just fighting Aku, there were a number of different interesting enemies that he got to fight. If we're talking about the portals and the time travel stuff, there was, I forget his name, I think he was just called, like, the Guardian or something. He was the really big guy, voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, who's come up yet again, who just, anything Jack threw at him, he had the same kind of moves and just guarding the portal kind of thing. That was a good one. I'm thinking of, there was the 3 archers on the tower defending the magic well. If anyone remembers that one.
I mean, I do know that in their first encounter, him and the Scotsman fought each other, but then he became his ally afterwards, something like that.
God, this Scotsman was such a good episode.
The Scotsman respects anyone who can, like, actually fight. I feel like he was a bounty hunter?
I'm pretty sure he did do some of that stuff. He was definitely wanted and had a bounty on his head. I think that was part of the thing. He's like, hey, look, essentially what happens, they meet on a bridge, they fight because they get into an argument, and they fall off the bridge and then are pursued by what I have to assume is a personification of the bayou in Louisiana in the form of a sheriff pig who has an airboat and cuffs them together, so they're stuck in a chain gang situation. And then they happen upon a place that has wanted posters. The Scotsman's wanted. And he's like, haha, look at that, I'm wanted. What are you? You're nothing. And they look inside, and there's a million posters of Jack everywhere. And then they have to get through all that.
Now you memorized, Aku's monologue from the opening. One of these days, I want to memorize the entire Scotsman rant from his introduction episode and just say that to people.
What do you think of that, Mr. Pajama-wearing, basket-faced, slipper-wielding, Clyde-3-backled, gather-up, blight-maw, blithering, gomeral, Jesse-off-looking stoner, nif-blukis-and milk-drinking, soy-faced, shell-pit, min-mouthed, sniveling worm-eyed, hootin' block, vile stooging calibrate tatty.
Oh my god, you can't. You'd have a much easier time doing the Christmas Vacation one, man.
And I want to look him straight in the eye, and I want to tell him what a cheap, lying, no-good, rotten, four-flushing, low-life, snake-licking, dirt-eating, inbred, overstuffed, ignorant, blood-sucking, dog-kissing, brainless, dickless, hopeless, heartless, fat-ass, bug-eyed, stiff-legged, spotty-lipped, worm-headed sack of monkey shit he is! Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
If you're going to memorize the Scotsman, you gotta do it in the accent.
Yeah. The name, what is it? John DiMaggio. Bender as the Scotsman. Fantastic. And then his wife. Does anyone remember the episode where they had to rescue his wife? And she's even worse than he is.
Go figure.
It's fantastic. I love, that was one of my favorite episodes whenever he came back in the 5th season. Beyond him, I remember they had those like lion people hunters from another planet who came after Jack. I remember rewatching a bunch of times the episode with there's some like, it was another demon who, when he killed someone, he like captured their soul and was then able to use them essentially like Pokemon. So Jack's fighting an army of other people that this guy has beaten. Really good stuff. One on the mountain. One where he actually finds his home again. There's like a lot of really good... Oh, there was one where... I think it was the one where he finds his home again. And he has a bunch of flashbacks to his childhood, so we get to see some of that. And one of the flashbacks is literally just... You remember that movie Wolf and Cub?
Yeah.
It's literally just that.
Huh.
Yeah, they do a whole thing with just the... Like, I love...
So they were really into the samurai movies.
This and Megas from last week, I'm like, these people had stuff that they absolutely loved, and they're like, we're going to make a whole show just about it.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Wolf and Cub was also a good movie.
We got to maybe see some of the sequels. I know it's a whole series.
Yeah, there was a bunch. So. Wasn't it a manga?
I forget which came first, but I know there was a manga.
Okay. But in that case, you could say this one's basically an anime.
Oh, it's basically a samurai movie, which is basically an anime. Last week was basically anime. I'm trying to think, like, especially, like, time period-wise, because we had, this came out in 2000, or was it 2001? 2001. Okay. And then you had Teen Titans coming out in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
A couple other shows after that, like Megas, Avatar, Live. I'm wondering, was this the show that really, like, kicked off the American shows inspired by anime?
I wouldn't say necessarily. I mean, this is probably one of the first American TV shows inspired by anime, but I definitely feel like it was the late 90s, early 2000s, like, anime was just starting to get dubbed over, like a lot of Sailor Moon and stuff like that was all sort of, like, probably a little bit more in the, like, public conscience at that time, so I think they were trying to go for those sorts of vibes, because they know that stuff gets an audience, and it definitely also sells, so.
Yeah, I definitely get that, but, like, I'm also thinking, like, that was actual anime, but was this, like, this is not technically anime. Was this the first non-anime anime? Is what I'm asking, kind of. Or at least the one that would kind of, because, like, after this, it's when they all start coming out. Teen Titans, Avatar, I'm going to include Megas in here, and then a couple even later down the line that we've seen up through today that have a lot more of anime inspiration. I mean, maybe you could say, like, the early, like, Transformers and stuff like that, since it was kind of like a Japan-US collaboration, but...
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe Power Rangers.
Yeah? But again, it's kind of like, yeah, this is just dubbed over anime, almost.
I mean, still, it's kind of like, you get more of that stuff out there, the kids are watching it, they're gonna want more stuff like this.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, I can't really remember any other ones other than this. But I also wasn't really aware that anime was a thing when this was coming out, because I was 6, and at the time I didn't know that Sailor Moon was an anime, I didn't know that Pokemon was an anime.
Yeah, I was just like, this is a cartoon, it's just drawn different.
No, I didn't even think it was drawn different. I was just like, oh, this is a cartoon. And I just thought it was an art style.
So here's something I just learned, and want to hear what everyone else thinks about it. Does anyone know who made the theme song to the show?
Wasn't he with the Black Eyed Peas?
Okay, so you already knew. This was will.i.am.
Yes.
Like, that feels so weird to say.
Interesting, yeah. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I heard the theme song a long time ago. I always thought it was a bop, but now that I hear it back, yeah, that is his singing or his rapping.
It's just weird to think about. I guess that was, like, much earlier in his career, where it was like, yeah, no, I'll do a theme song for it. It's kind of like, it's just, it's one of those things. It's like, you remember Proud Family? They had, like, what, Destiny's Child did that.
Yeah!
That's so weird to think about.
I know,
Although,
right?
it's kind of weird, because when you think about it, here you have a Western anime-inspired show that has a hip-hop theme song, and then, I don't know if it came out around the same time, but then, yeah, you know, the creator of Cowboy Bebop made his follow-up show, Samurai Champloo, around the same time, and
3
it
years
also
later.
had a hip-hop theme song.
I mean, you know what? For someone like Shinichiro Watanabe, I could see that being a thing. Because he clearly was inspired by a lot of American films for Bebop, and a lot of Americans were inspired by samurai films. I mean, I feel like I've talked before about...
cowboy movies.
Yeah, most of the spaghetti westerns were just based off old samurai movies. Akira Kurosawa is the greatest, like, western filmmaker, when you think about it. But yeah, so I could see an easy back and forth between like a lot of these kind of creative people who are all just seem to be in the same stuff, man. Cool shit. Honestly, like watching some of these back, I'm just like, does anyone remember the commercial, like the in between TV show like bumper shorts they had, where all the cartoon characters are living in the same town?
Yes.
And Samurai Jack is hanging out with Johnny Bravo.
Do you remember like Velma was in love with Johnny Bravo?
That was
in those bumpers.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the crossover episode. So
well, not only that, they had it in the bumper thing.
In the bumpers too.
Yeah, because Johnny was like at a bar or something, like trying to get over Velma because her career came first, man.
It was so fun.
I actually remember, not to get back to my favorite, but there was at one point the Mystery Machine rolled up next to Megas at a stoplight.
Yeah.
And they tried like, oh, you want to race, man? I'm like, you're out of luck here, Fred.
Yeah, damn. Fred really believes in the Mystery Machine.
I mean, later incarnations, I could see them pulling some BS and be like, yeah, no, it can compete with Megas. It outraced Baby.
Did you just get beat by a microvan? The light was red. The light...
Right.
Oh, that was a good episode.
Yeah. It was crazy.
It's basically anime.
True.
This has been great. This has been great watching, like, I'm trying to think of the shows that we've watched the past week. Have I not seen any of them before? I think these were all ones that I was like, yeah, no, I've watched each of these at some point. I don't know. I've been having a real good time the last couple of weeks. I'm thinking everyone else did for the most part. Enjoyed these last bits for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely interesting. It was definitely, other than Teen Titans, these were shows that, I never watched. So it's like, okay, interesting watching, other stuff that may not have been as mainstream as, obviously Teen Titans was mainstream and Totally Spies was popular, but like some of the other shows were, less mainstream and less and more obscure. So interesting, to see some of those shows.
Yeah. I don't even know that I need to say it, but I'm a full yay here. And I've said it for a couple weeks now, but I'm probably going to have to go back and watch the rest of this.
I am also a yay. Same thoughts as at the beginning.
Yeah, I think this is a yay for me too. Definitely a walk down memory lane, because God, I couldn't remember most of this.
Yeah, it's a definite yay. It's a definite yay for me. Yeah, it's definitely one of those shows I wish I could have watched, and honestly, I probably could have, watched any time after high school because, I could have, but I just never got around to watching it. So, yeah, I probably should go and watch the rest of it.
Yeah, I liked this show a lot more than I thought I would. My biggest issue was I could only find it on, like, this sketchiest website. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have watched much more of it than just the 3 episodes.
Yeah, I'm a yay. I think the animation at the beginning is a bit dated, so it does look a little bit janky, but it has such great storytelling.
Yeah, I guess we didn't talk about that much. Like, weirdly enough, setting it in the future kind of makes this an ageless show. I feel like maybe not all of the animation elements, but like I feel like the show could have come out today very easily. Well, maybe not, given like what a lot of shows tend to have to be nowadays. But I don't know.
Yeah,
it feels timeless in a way.
I will say that this would have been definitely a show that if it were to have come out today, it would have been put on Adult Swim and only Adult Swim. Because I don't really think that, like, cartoons that a lot of us grew up with would not be considered good television for people that were our age now.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, at least with season 5, with, like, that gigantic boost to the animation, where it is still very stylized and true to what the original, like, vision was, for a show that is so visually based, because, again, there's not a lot of dialogue that goes on as you get further into the show. Like, that holds up really well, and I think that will always hold up really well. It's more just like Jack more floats than walks in the earlier seasons because they don't animate the kimono leaving the ground.
I like that. I think it's cute.
I kind of agree. I think it works for the stylistic element of it.
He's like a princess.
Like, it almost makes it sort of like a comic book kind of thing. Like, you don't see people step that much in comics. Like,
I don't know. It does make it very weird to see his feet, though.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, what they lack in walking, they make up for in batshit insanity, especially in the action, where there's thousands upon thousands of stuff on the screen at once. And it's amazing where, I mean, I'm sure they had digital technology back then, but, like, I'm sure most of it was probably still, hand-drawn. So, like, the fact they were able to do all that is just, I always find that impressive about animation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing with the feet is if the feet are out, shit's about to get real.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck the sword. The feet are where it's at.
If he starts making a stance, that's how you know shit's about to go down.
You see those and you're like, oh shit, the chancla is out.
It's not the sword, it's the sandals.
Sandal is mightier than the sword.
Yep. Well, I guess that's it for this year. Wrapping this up. So we might as well talk about what we're going to be checking out for the new year and January and everything that's going on there. We've been kind of doing themed months a little bit, and we're going to probably continue that into the next year. So there was a movie that came out pretty recently that got a whole lot of fanfare called The Boy and the Heron from Miyazaki, because that was his most recent movie. We're probably not going to see one for another 5 years, assuming that he makes it that long, but, we'll talk about that another time. We didn't talk about it on the podcast yet, so we might as well do that, and we're probably going to do a number of Ghibli movies going into January. Just going to make it a whole month and look over some of the ones, because we've already watched a few, but we haven't watched all of them, and we haven't talked about all of them, so we might as well go and check out some of his other ones throughout January. But we'll be starting with The Boy and the Heron next week, and going from there and having all sorts of new fun in the new year. So come join us then. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, check out some of our previous episodes, our daily gaming videos, or our parody series, Madoka Magically Abridged. See you next time!